All right, everybody, how you doing? This is me, Carl, with the Carl Experience. Welcome to another episode. This is season 2, episode 20, and today's topic, if you will, is going to be the National Black News Channel. The divide grows. And I picked a racially divisive topic because it was in my topics list, and I'm slowly going through that. I couldn't spend days and days and days writing and writing and writing because I am busy doing other things now. It's not that the podcast gets the back burner, which it should anyway. But you got to figure I've got a 6-year-old at home, a wife, 2 dogs. I still do woodworking, and yeah, then talking to different people. But yeah, on to the show, or to what we're talking about. A few months ago, and this is before this shit started flying around, there was an announcement that apparently went almost unheard of. The National Black News Channel, which was simplified to the Black News Channel, centering on the black perspective of the news. And as soon as I saw this, my reaction was, really? People complain about CNN, and then you're going to go and off and make another version of CNN for black people. Now, as you may or may not be aware, there are different awards like the ESPYs, BET, and the NAACP awards that are predominantly black, and I think the last time I heard of like the BET or any kind of awards for black people being given to a white person was when Wild Cherry did Play That Funky Music. And this is probably before most of, I don't exactly remember when that song came out, but I'm pretty sure if I was born, I'd just been born, because I don't think that came out in 1980, but I will check on it. But you have this plethora of award shows, and I do mean plethora. You've got all these award shows that are dedicated to honoring Black, Latino, and Asian ethnicities. And this need to constantly spill racist vitriol is truly disturbing. I will let you know what I mean by that here in a minute. We have as award shows, not particularly racist in any way, the Golden Globes. I can't remember all these damn awards. Golden Globes, the Razzies, the Oscars, or the Academy Awards. But there's like a handful. There are like 3 or 4 award shows all in a row. And then you have the colored award shows like the ESPYs, the BET Award, the NAACP Awards, which are predominantly for black people, and I'm sure there's award shows for Latinos. I do not know. I do not watch racist shows like that, and people can bitch and moan all they want about award shows being racist, especially like the Oscars. Well, only white people are getting the awards, and yet, not even 2-3 years ago, me and my wife went to go watch movies that were nominated. We bothered going through the nominations for each award show and watching all the movies. And it was eye-opening. And not in the best sense either. You see, we were watching the movies that were handed out by the Oscars and then by the BET and the ESPYs. Really weren't concerned about the ESPY and BET awards movies, but we went and watched all of them anyway because we wanted to have a rounded education on this stuff. And we watched all the movies, and we started noticing something. In black cinema, specifically, there was the token white person. Token. That means like one person. Other than that, everybody's black. Everybody's African American. There's not a whole lot of white people. I got a smudge of this exact center of my glasses. No wonder it looks weird. Okay. Blurry spot there, just barely, but yeah. But you've got a cast and they're acting, and it's like watching a Medea movie. You've got an all-black cast, almost no white people, if any at all. And then all of a sudden, it wins awards for having. They don't have an award on BET about the most racially diverse cast, do they? No, they do not. Don't have it in the Golden Globes or the Academy Awards or the or the SAG Awards. But I really do think it's it's telling when, like, for the Academy Awards, all of a sudden all these black people drop out of the award show. Well, I wasn't nominated, like with Will Smith. Will Smith in his early days should have been up for an Academy Award. Should have been. Yeah, should have been, period. His acting in his early days was great. I think he should have won an award for two roles: 6 Degrees of Separation and 12 Pounds. By far, you connect all of his other work, 12 Pounds and 6 Degrees of Separation, may be the two best Will Smith films ever made, up to this point, mind you. And I have seen most of the Will Smith movies. Unfortunately, not all. Better part of them aren't really good anymore. I watched 12 Pounds and I about cried. Well, I did cry, actually. I'm not afraid to admit I cried at 12 Pounds. And I also cried at 6 Degrees of Separation because of the story. It kind of leaves you with a cliffhanger ending. But I enjoyed those movies. Will Smith should have gotten an Academy. He should have gotten a statue for that. He should have gotten an Oscar for at least 12 Pounds. Whereas 6 Degrees of Separation, his first movie, I get why they didn't go for him that time. But going from all that and then going through all this shit and then doing 12 Pounds. 12 Pounds was a masterpiece. Excellent acting. I mean, I actually got lost in the movie. And if you've been bad enough to see After Earth was a piece of crap. Seriously, it was a piece of shit. And so, yeah, I felt a little irked by that. But Will Smith all of a sudden does some hokey ass role as some stereotypical black guy. And next thing you know, it's like, where's my Oscar? Where's the performance? Where's the emotional connection? That's why when I see movie reviews by all these unknown people, it's like, well, your opinion sucks. Like there's a couple movies I went to go see where the movie had poor reviews from critics. Critics were panning the hell out of the movie. I watched the movie. I couldn't get enough of the damn movie. I mean, I went and downloaded it just to watch it again and again and again. And Then when it comes to it getting released digitally and DVD and all that crap, it made bang. Like a lot of people didn't go see it because the critics decided it was shit, and then people didn't want to go spend $300 watching a movie 4 times. I understand that. So they all wait till it comes out on DVD or download, and that movie made bank off of that. You know, there's been quite a few movies that were so good you wanted to see them, you went to go see them. It was worth the price to go to the theater, and then as soon as it comes out, you own it. Like for me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I have watched that thing 3 times. When The Hateful Eight came out, I know crap. I've watched that movie like 60 times now. Like I'm not kidding. I've also watched Django Unchained about 30 times. I was watching the shit out of it because it was a good movie. Good acting, good direction, good music. Everything was awesome. But then again, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Hateful Eight, and Django Unchained are all Quentin Tarantino films. So if you don't like gratuitous, bad, and dirty language and the N-word being mentioned all the time, don't go see it. But those are great movies. Like those are undeniably great movies. They banked a shitload at the box office. Now, the movies that I watched for the ESPYs and the BET Awards, basically every movie is designed to be the black version of a white family story. Like there's a movie that's similar to my throat is dry. There's a black movie that's similar to Instant Family with Mark Wahlberg, where they adopt some kids. The black version of the movie, it has decent acting and some of the dramatic points, but other than that, okay. I got dry, rote acting, and I didn't feel this. I didn't feel the same stuff I did as when I watched like Instant Family. Movies about adoption, I get they're emotional, but the one that the adoption movie that we watched with an all black cast, it was wholly flat. I mean, the acting was okay. The action, well, what do you expect? It's an adoption movie with kids in it. It's meant to be a family movie. I get that. I understand that. I was expecting to be drawn in, to have my heartstrings pulled. I wanted it so bad. I needed to cry, To my avail, nothing. The best part of the movie is at the very end when you finally realize it's ending, and just like the family dynamics, the thing that irritated me a lot about this black movie, I can't remember for the life of me what the name of the black movie was, but there is more internal strife within the family because, well, they ain't really family. Okay, same thing goes on in white households or Mexican households or Asian households. When you adopt somebody who's not blood related, you've got those people who are like, well, they're not real family. Let's take a picture of them and then take a picture without them. Well, if you're going to make that argument, then you need to stay in your old school. You need to stay in your old school place where they keep you segregated from everybody else because you're a prude. And yes, when I watched Instant Family, I cried my ass off. I'm not even trying to deny I cried. I was crying because we just got done booting my daughter out for attacking me physically. So I couldn't have that around at the time. My 4-year-old wasn't going to put up with it. Ain't going to happen. But back to the main point here is they have award shows. Now they have their own news channel, which I don't see why they have any. Well, this is just pertaining to the black community. Okay, well, just like with COVID, and this is only a for instance, we were tracking numbers heavily here, very heavily. We were tracking them every time there was even one more COVID case. We announced it, and if there was one more death, that got announced, of course. Now they're tracking it by populations of 100,000, racially based. So they turned this worldwide pandemic, or this epidemic, into a racial thing. They've literally turned something that wasn't racial into a racial issue. And, you know, I have seen so many fucking things about the racial divide, so to speak. Well, black people are like, well, we are tired of being counted as second-class citizens. We are being annihilated. No, that's racist propaganda. Now, I tell you a story that happened a while back, just as context. Me and this guy went in for an interview for a warehouse job. The job paid a certain amount of money, period. Couldn't get any more, couldn't get any less. I know, I asked. And me being poor white trash at the time, you know, I'm like fresh out of high school, about to turn 19. My dad says, get the hell out and go get a job. Took me a minute to get the job, but it was a temp job. But they were going to hire me on. And me and this black kid, same age as me, you know, he went to school up north. And he told me he went to a school up north. He didn't tell me where or what school. He and I were both applying for the same job. We had the same credentials. I mean, literally, the only difference is he was going to be there for the summer, and then he was going to go to college. I had no college aspirations. So they decide to test us both out. They make us do an internship, if you will, and I flat out told the people in charge, I'm not working for free, period. You want somebody who'll work for free? Hire whoever the hell else, but you're not hiring me. And at that point, the kid and the guy next to me, the black kid, we were both kids back then, so it's not like I'm saying he was younger than me. We were literally like a month apart in age. But he said, I'm not going to work for free either. You're not going to bust our balls, bust our chops, and put us through a ringer, and we're not and not get paid for it. If we're going to go through all this nonsense, we're going to go through all this bullshit, you're going to pay us. And the other, you know, the guy who was sitting in front of us is like, well, I got to make a phone call. He makes a phone call. We wait a few minutes. Another guy comes to the door and says, we don't offer paid internships. We both get up and offer our hand to shake the guy's hand, as we're saying, thank you, but no, we're not gonna work for it without pay. Period. And finally, the guy who just came in, he's like, hold on. We need to try the both of you out, but we can't afford to pay both of you. To which I proceeded to ask how many people were being laid off so that this job could open up. He said they'd gotten rid of 4 people who'd been working for them for 30 years, so they were making a lot of money. They were wanting to replace them with one person and save a buttload of money and not have to pay them a shitload. So it's like, okay, so you laid off 4 people to replace them with one person, which you're now going to try 2 of us out for that position. How about you take all that money you're supposed to be saving and pay us until you make your decision? They asked the other kid if it was all right. Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest anyway. So we both work, and we're there for about a week. And we're both getting paid the exact same amount of money. I mean, the exact. We're being paid a minimum wage. We're working our butts off. We're flying around everybody else that we're around, and they tell us that we need to see who can work faster, better, harder, smarter, all that crap. Well, as it turns out, I had a family emergency I had to attend to at the end of that week, and I told them I could not make it to my post interview for like the end of the trial period. And they're like, okay, well, if if you leave now, you're not going to get paid. I said, yeah, I will, because I'll call the labor board. And I even had the labor board's number written down. I told them I'd just dial them directly and I could have them shut down. They said that was fine. Go ahead and call them, but this other kid will be more than happy to take over your position. And what's worse is he won't even realize we're paying him half of what he's worth. You're worth more to us because of who you are. Never having had that said to me before. What do you mean? We want a white worker. We want a white guy working the line because we have some customers that are very heavily racist. If they see even a young black guy making money at our company, they will terminate our contract. So he will be gone before that client gets here in like, what was it, 2 months or some crap. So they wanted to hire me because I was white. Well, I was raised with the colorblind palette of you work harder than everybody else. That way you owe nobody, and that way you don't owe anybody anything. And I told the kid, I went out when they dismissed me because I was going with my slip to go get paid. As I told them if they didn't, I was going to not only call the police, I was going to call the labor board. Instantly, a check appeared in my hand. So as I'm going around to the office where I'm supposed to get that thing cashed or whatever, I go around to the black kid and tell him what all's going on. He ended up, from what I understand, he ended up going there and he was fired on the spot for me having told him what was going to happen to his job. That I was leaving. They wanted a white guy for the job in the first place. They were just playing nice to make it seem like it was even, but he'll be gone before the racist clientele gets there. Me, I can't stand that kind of crap, so I wasn't going to work there anyway after finding out they have a racist client that they cater to. But we were both paid the exact same amount of money. That's why when people say this racial divide in pay, there's not a racial divide in pay. Some companies will. That's one of the things that's one of the reasons they tell you not to talk about salary in certain jobs, is because they don't want anybody knowing that there's a huge disparity, if there is one. For all the jobs I've gotten, for all the jobs I've had, I get paid the lowest amount possible, usually, and they keep me there. That's the lowest amount possible. It doesn't matter what I'm making them bank or not. If they're making a buttload of money, they keep me at the basest pay they can. That's why when it comes to doing independent jobs from independent business owners, not large-scale business owners, I usually be like, okay, how much am I getting paid? And how much am I working? Go through all that crap, and if they lowball me, it's like, no. You can go hire 10 other guys to work at that price. I'm not doing it. You're going to pay me at least this much. I'm going to work these hours on these days, and that's the way it is. Usually they get a few guys and blow through like 30 people before they get back to me, and then they see how I work, and they're like, oh, got to keep you. Where you get what you want. And next thing you know, I've got money in my pocket. But I think it's funny that we're getting divided. I mean, like look at it this way. Al Sharpton, he's a race baiter, as opposed to who is it? taking me a second to pull my brain together. My brain keeps on going to Samuel L. Jackson. I know that's not who it is. God, any other time I can think of his name easily, but he's anti-Black History Month. Anyway, we get divided by unintentionally racist motivations from the black community and every other community. Now, I get that people are like, well, you're a privileged white fucker. You don't get to say anything because you've had an overprivileged life. No, I grew up poor. I have literally, as an adult, not as a child, slept under bridges because I had to. You better believe my shit changed real quick. I think I've spent maybe a week sleeping under a bridge, and that was intermittently. I cajoled, bargained, traded, bartered, everything. And sometimes all I had to do was sleep on a carpet in a room or a wooden floor in a room. Hell, I spent 3 months sleeping on the cement basement floor at my parents' place because I didn't have a bed yet. I slept on a lawn chair after that, and then I finally moved my way up to a bed. I moved up to a bed in about 5 months. I didn't have a bed for the first couple months though, and I slept on concrete. Yeah, some people call me privileged. It's a privilege to be alive, but I'm not privileged. I grew up poorer than dirt. I mean, poverty was upward towards where I was. I was born in destitution. Born in Plainview, and back in the late '70s, early '80s, Plainview was actually one of the worst places, and was one of the 2 worst places to live in the city. Period. So yeah, and for us, if my dad hadn't been so bad with money, might have seen a lot more. But my dad was influenced by his best friend, who apparently had already been divorced, and he wanted to go out and celebrate his freedom, which involved going out to flesh bars, getting drunk, acting like the women actually liked them, even though they were. I don't know if the word slob is all right, but my dad and his friend were very fat. They drank a lot, and they had the manners of a horse. But still, they think all these they would go out to strip clubs, and my dad on several occasions came back home drunk while my mom was at work and claimed that he was so smitten with this dancer, and yeah, my parents almost got divorced because of my dad's stupidity. But my dad, he piddled away so much money because him and his friends had to do what they wanted to do, which was you work all week and then you spend the weekends going out with your friends to flesh bars, strip clubs, stuff like that. You went all out and you got drunk and imagined that the strippers were in love with you and wanted to go home with you and all this other crap. You know, in love with a stripper, basically. And yeah, when people tell me I was privileged, no, I wasn't. My dad was an idiot. He was bad with money, to be sure. My mom was great with money, even though she couldn't read very well. My mom had dyslexia, still has it. But she managed to pay. My dad would sometimes come home with $20 and tell my mom to pay all the bills with that. How's my mom supposed to pay off a bill? And back then, like back when we were living in Plainview, my dad was still working at General Electric, making apparently pretty decent money. But he decided to go along with his friend and spend all the money at the titty bars, giving his money away. I don't do that. Don't operate like that. My bills come first. I'm just kind of shrewd like that. I like having roof over my head and all that crap. My dad apparently didn't. But yeah. And it concerns me that people say I'm privileged, and then I see these other people living a life that I wish I'd had as a child, you know. And I realized that's not the childhood I would want. Even if I could go back and change it to that, I'd rather not, because I have seen guys that drive up and they drive up in a really nice car. They drive around the block once or twice, and they drop the kid off. They don't see him again for a month. They spent 2.5 minutes with their kid and then leave. And why would you do that? I don't get it. I'd rather be around my kid than not be around him, which is why my kid's in a room in quiet time right now watching something. But yeah, we'll have to continue this one here in a moment. All right, now as I was saying, there's that whole divide there. What really it does certainly sink in about this racial divide, because you have people making race an issue. Like you go to watch Hidden Figures, arguably a very powerful movie, just ecstatically powerful, and a mostly black crew of people, but it also includes white people who play a very pivotal role in getting the message of racism through. I get that. But we have so many divides now that it's funny. I mean, everything has to be, well, he did a great job on this. He did a great job on that. She did a great job on this. She did a great job on that. Well, I wish there were more ethnically correct folks. Okay, well, that brings the whole thing of racial stereotyping. Not all the Disney princesses, if you go with ethnic correctness, would be white. As a matter of fact, I think Snow White would probably be Asian. But it's either that or Czechoslovakian. But again, this won't be the only thing about racial divide, but I wanted to convey the stupidity of it, because I am not racist. And it annoys me when somebody says, well, this movie was awesome, and I've seen that movie. It's like, really? That's your quality of movie you like to watch? Well, it was awesome. It had an all-black cast. That's like saying The Wiz will compete with The Wizard of Oz. Do I think The Wizard of Oz should have had a black person or two in it? Absolutely. But we are talking about 1939 versus like what, 1975 or 1985, somewhere in there. So remember that when everybody's claiming that it's a racial thing. No, it's not. It's being baited into being a racial thing. It's not actually a racial thing. It's somebody wants to make it out to be a racist problem when there's racist and racism intent on either side. I happen to have none of those. That's why I'm commenting on these. But I digress. I'm about done with this. Shout out for the moment. Let me check something real quick here. I need to check what kind of stupid crap is going on. Oh, opioid addictions. Dr. Phil. Okay, but yeah, I feel that having all these separate award shows just for blacks and Latinos, the Latinos I get, but at the same time I don't get. But these things that are supposed to elevate the black community, I think hinder it, because you're singling out people you think are better than. Okay, well, you take something like Hidden Figures and compare it to another black, all-black cast movie. Why are they both different? Why is And here's another thing I've noticed and wanted to point out, but haven't because it might seem racist. And right now, I don't give a damn if it seems racist or not. You have two families, two whole sets of families. You're talking mom, dad, kids, pet, grandparents, great grandparents, possibly aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, the whole 9 yards, best friends, all that bullshit. And you look at the stories, and for a lot of us, I know because I've paid attention, if some of these situations were to come up in my family, some of these arguments you see on some of these urban movies, as they're called, I would straight the hell walk up out of where I was sitting and go the hell home and stay there. You got a kid who's a freshman in high school, and all of a sudden she falls in love with some kid, and next thing you know, she's pregnant before the end of her freshman year. Okay, that's number one. It's a failure on my part. Number two, it's a failure on your kid's part to have better judgment. And I hate it when they do family depictions of, well, you had me at 16 or whatever age, and the parents like, well, we didn't plan on having you. We didn't want to be parents then, but you just happened. No, you did the same thing your daughter did. I'm sorry, but you can't excuse one behavior just because you want to excuse yourself. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. And you get those parents that are like, well, I just turned 30 or 32. I'm too young to be a grandparent. Well, maybe you should have taught your kid about sex and abstinence and birth control a lot sooner. Because if puberty was very generous to them, they're not going to make it through all the way through puberty without being pregnant. And some of these internal dialogues where the family is confused and all this other crap about what to do, or you have people who think they're on the moral absolute right, it's ridiculous. If my daughter got pregnant, would I be disappointed at the age she is now? Almost 17? Yes, of course I would. I'd be disappointed in her poor decision-making skills. Am I somewhat responsible for that? I don't see it as my responsibility, but I would tell my daughter if she had a pregnancy scare, don't get an abortion. Not because of my overwhelming drive to be a grandparent, but because of my belief system. If the child wasn't a circumstance of rape or incest, and for her just having sex with some guy she had a one-night stand with, maybe you should pick better men. Maybe you should, I don't know, use birth control. Would I have her out with a kid? Yeah, while I'm still raising my own kid, yeah, it's going to be hard, but you make sacrifices for your children, but at some point she has to grow up. Literally. But anyway, you guys leave me your thoughts and comments. I know Laura does. I want to thank Laura for that. I want to thank Gregory Allen Manuel. Or is it Manuel Allen? Can't remember that one. I know I had it written down, got it right once, twice maybe, but I'd also like to thank Corey, Amy, Robert, Sean, anybody else who's listening. I'm not trying to be derogatory or derisive, divisive maybe to a certain extent, but it's not something that hasn't already been explored. But you guys have a great day. I'm going to get on with mine because I got to get this podcast shrunk and then released. So you guys have a great day, and please keep your eyes open. I'm not sure what the next podcast is going to be about, but it won't be about this. As always, it will change. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.